location in Scottsdale, Arizona, talking to someone that I would describe as a music icon. I'd like to introduce you to Jessi Colter. How are you, Jessi?
Oh, I'm good now that I'm here.
Well, I'm glad you're feeling good, because goodness makes for a great conversation. For those of people and students watching this videotape, why don't you just describe yourself and tell us a little bit about your background and who Jessi is.
Well, just thinking, Waylon had a way with words, and he liked, in the early days, to introduce me as poor little ugly thing, she barely can sing. And then he also would look at me and say, "You're in trouble." And it was his way to be dramatic, of course. So, that's who I am. I sing,
and
I write
Waylon,
songs.
who would that Waylon person be?
Oh, yes, I'm so sorry.
I guess there's only one person in the world actually named Waylon, right? It's like a Madonna kind of thing.
Well, yes, Waylon Jennings has been part of my life, well, half of my life. My husband and mentor and father of my son, Shooter,
Right.
and general all-around good guy. He's been much part of my life.
So, I'm wondering, what has Waylon taught you?
One thing he taught me was stick with the melody. So often when artists first do their songs, they love then, after a while, they're new, they're big hit, and they go out there and like to play with it. But the people have heard something they like, and they liked it a lot. And I have found such truth in that. That's number one. This is musically. Number two, don't use your platform for perhaps your personal beliefs, your political beliefs. They've come there as an entertainer to enjoy what you do. And don't misrepresent what they've come for to them. Do the song and stick with the melody. That was certainly...
That just reminds me of a clip I watched, and I believe Waylon said, "How are you liking the show? It doesn't really matter because you already paid the money, so we're going to give you what you paid for." Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
He had a great way.
Yeah, he certainly did.
On his feet, but he taught me to know his truth.
Well, you mentioned the word beliefs, and you said don't broadcast your beliefs. But what would happen if we put you on the stage and said, "Tell us what's important to you as a person"?
Well, if I were asked, by
I'm
somebody that's part of the show.
Yeah.
Oh, you asking me?
Yeah, I'm asking you that.
Okay. What are my beliefs?
Well, if you had a stand-up like
Yes.
Nick Lowry, another person in the book,
Yes.
he's very, very outgoing and telling you what he believes in. So,
Excellent communicator. Excellent. Yes.
So what are the things that are important to you?
Well, I'll tell you,
Beliefs?
first of all, my life has been a great adventure with God. Okay, God is my first priority. After that, family matters much. My music matters much to me. I believe that you should live so that others can believe in you. That's one of mine.
Okay, so you should live as others should believe in you.
Others could believe in you.
What is the message that you want other people to have about you?
I don't know. I just know that I made that decision.
Okay.
When, the trying 20s, the building 30s, I made the decision when I was needing to know what to do in regard to my dear husband, who used drugs at the time, and although he went into the studio and cut platinum records most of the time, he wasn't out there doing stupid things. At the same time, I thought, how can I best help this situation? So I can refer back to my mother, who was a minister, and who was true blue in every way, missionary at heart, and stood...
I know she put you to work.
Yes, stood by everything she believed in, and that came back to me. The answer came back to me. You've got to live in a way that he can believe in you, not necessarily go along with him, not necessarily be part of his life, which is the hardest decision I ever made at that point. But it was so clear. When you run by yourself with someone who's influenced you in a way that you know you could believe in them, then you understand what that means. So I don't know exactly what I would bring somebody else. I have to ask a second opinion. I don't much talk about myself.
All right, well, I'm going to do the best I can. We are back with Jessi Colter. And Jessi is really what I would describe as a very private person. But I believe that your influence on others is substantial, yet subtle. I just get the impression, and for those people that don't know, Jessi is the proud mom of another country music star, Shooter Jennings, and I know you've absolutely been a role model for him. But I'm getting the impression that you like to hang out in the back, and I'm not surprised if you're orchestrating everything that's going on around you. You're just very subtle. Is that?
Well, that's a compliment, what you're saying, because substantial, I think, you try to be stable as best you can. That involves discipline, a commitment to principles. I believe in absolutes.
Okay.
I do that, but at the same time, I really like people to be themselves. I really like to let you be who you are.
So, do you think you've influenced other people?
I hear things. I don't do much on social media or anything like that, but incoming people know that, Waylon made it clear that my love greatly influenced him. And I think, frankly, love is the greatest influencer there is.
That's what the books say, too. The
That's
chapter on emotions talks about that.
That is something.
Yeah, it's the most powerful motive.
Mm-hmm.
It really is.
It works.
Well,
it works. Love works.
So I have, this is my intellectual curiosity here, but what would happen if Jessi never met Waylon and there was no Waylon Jennings? Would that change who you are today?
I don't know exactly how to answer that, because, whatever we come into, and I'm sure, that there would have been a purpose and plan for my life had it not taken the path that it did, because then it wouldn't. I'm sure I would return to some very basic early values. They say you love last what you love first. And
So that's what you, I never heard that, but
really?
that's what you,
Yes,
you're going to wind up your career singing in church?
Oh, I don't know. I have a lot yet to show.
Mm-hmm.
I've been working on a Psalms album for a number of years, but I don't know. I don't know if that necessarily means church. I return to the soil that was born here.
Literally.
I don't know exactly.
So do you think you'd be the same person if you never met Waylon, or did
I
he
would hope
change
so.
you? People have different influences.
Well, yes, yes.
It's like the intersection of.
Yes, and I think the challenges you meet
Yeah.
greatly. You have your core, and the challenges you meet and how you meet them, I guess, defines you in the end.
Mm-hmm.
And we all have plenty of challenges.
Also, you want to tell us about those, or you want to talk about that?
Oh, I can't tell you because I don't know for sure what they are.
Do you know what you want to
It's every
accomplish
day
next?
a new one. Every day a new one.
Yeah, okay. Well, you have a plan, though. You seem to be very organized and kind of know what you want to accomplish based upon what we already talked about. So, accurate or not? Or are you like the spur-of-the-moment person?
No. It's almost like, somebody asks other people to name, a list of what they like.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more like, when I see it, I know it.
Okay. Well, we have a name for that. It's called situational interest. And it usually happens when you get emotionally engaged in something.
Yes.
So you
Yes,
may
and
be
that's
watching something on
exciting,
TV
yes.
and it sparks a certain
Yes.
emotion in you, maybe, pride or
Yes.
confidence or whatever.
Yes.
But, so that's very,
I think
that's common.
Yeah, I think it's a part too of from the inside out of your work is, writing and absorbing and entertaining. I absorb a lot. Like Nick has the ability to, bring whatever he's feeling and thinking right to his front part of his brain and share it. It's a marvelous gift.
He's more outspoken.
Yes, but it comes out, and he too is very sensitive, absorbs things. I probably keep him in more and find, kind of have to be drawn out,
Okay,
I think.
that's an interesting point for me because many individuals are unaware of actually what makes them tick and what their motivations are. So you have this life plan and you believe in certain things and you want to accomplish certain things. Do you set goals?
That's a funny question. Everybody else I know.
Oh, everybody else says no,
Everybody
but you
else I
have
know.
them. Okay.
No, they say they have goals. And I'm the one that, of course, there is something steering my life. And because I seek God regularly to ask that His purpose be accomplished in me, that doesn't give me so much outer control over every little thing. But I do business.
Mm-hmm.
I take offers. I choose my people I want to be with. I pursue what my heart is stirred to do. I mean, I've been on the bench, so to speak, as far as what I'm producing musically. But what I'm working on will be heard. But it's been more a life experience. After being on the fast lane that we had to live on, working, touring, much of that, I found it interesting to learn how kind of normal people live, good-timing people.
Yeah.
They just know how to make the present, and they don't have the big glamorous, how can I put it, explosions of creativity. They don't have that. How do they live? And I thought this has been very interesting. And the cowboys and the Indians and those that I hung out with were saying, well, I wonder why she isn't with her group. I'm thinking I've been with my group. I love my group. I have marvelous friendships in the business. But I kind of wanted to see just how people who maybe weren't so professionally driven, it's like, that's all we did was work. I mean, that's what we did most.
Okay, well, let me think about that.
What that means, I don't know.
No,
I'm
just trying to
how do you
understand.
live? How do you live? How do you live? How do you
You sound like an anthropologist,
I do.
Yes,
Well,
you
this
do.
is interesting.
Because that's what people do. They try to an anthropologist will look at groups of people and social situations and try to figure out what it means.
Mhm.
And you're giving me the impression that that's who you are, but I still think you have some substantial interest or influence, not interest, over other people, and it's a very powerful but subtle source of power that you have. All right, we're back with Jessi Colter, and Jessi, you've had a life on the road. How do you maintain your sanity in that kind of situation? How often did you tour?
We toured a lot. I mean, in the very early days, it was 300 days a year.
300?
Because
Wow.
of 2 ex-wives and children that needed money. But, it slowed down. We got to 180. But that means, you're a day to get there, a day to show, and a day to get to the next place. So, even in the last 6 months of Waylon's life, we really worked, I would say, a fifth the time for twice the money. So the power and, the value was still there, which was great. But our home was a sanctuary. It was very stable for Shooter and all
But people have a lot of expectations from you when you're on the road, right?
Well, we pretty much learned to set them ourselves. The business, when you're running 30 people and governing everybody getting here, it takes a lot of organization. One of them was great at that. That wasn't my job. What was the
Well, I
question?
meant like,
I got lost there.
no, the original question was how do you maintain your
Okay.
sanity on the
Well,
road?
you know,
Because you're going from place to place
Right.
and it's like,
Right.
there's
you're
no
leaving your beautiful
stop, right?
No, you're leaving your beautiful home to go stay in hotels, okay? Then you're in locker rooms, and that's one of the reasons you have these buses that cost as much as a ranch,
Right.
because it gives you some sense of ownership. You know, exercise is important. Of course, you know, in the early days, nobody believed in that except for athletes. But
Were you exercising back then?
yes.
I know you had a
Yes.
strength coach.
Yeah, he puts himself on my website.
Okay, but I meant expectations, like, if you meet somebody on the road, you're always on. And I think a lot of people
Yes.
can succumb to that pressure. And with the recent, for example, the recent passing of Robin Williams,
No,
I think
it's
there's a
sad.
big expectations issue
Yeah.
that you really have to have that
Right.
really focused
Right.
vision on how you want to present yourself. And I can't imagine that pressure, but maybe you can you talk
It's
a little bit
very
about that
good
pressure
question.
and what
Very
people
good, yeah.
want from you? Because
Mhm.
even though you're of course a star, other people that may be listening to this are stars in their own right when everybody wants a little piece of them. So how do you manage that?
You know, it's interesting because Billy Bob Thornton said something about Waylon that was really cool. He said, you know, he takes everything in his stride. And like, I don't care if we were at the, gosh, my favorite hotel in Paris. Anyway, wherever we were, the Holiday Inn, you know, it didn't matter. It was the same. And things in life present themselves. The reason we stopped doing newspaper interviews is because they either lied, People Magazine made up things, so you learn it along the way. But Waylon insisted on not allowing this to stop him, which I'm so glad he was that way.
Mm-hmm.
And we just, you know, I would, you know, try to look good when we went into in the restaurants after you've driven 18 hours in the bus. You know, you kind of, you know, people are expecting to see you look good. But I don't know, somehow we just really didn't go for all that.
Yeah. Would you have any advice for people that feel there's a lot of pressure on them, since you've been in so many of these pressure-packed situations, how to deal with it?
I think, you know, stabilize yourself with your roots, your family, your physical environment.
So surround yourself with the
Yes.
right people?
Yes, but, you know, check out your roots. What makes you feel rooted? Because you're uprooted, you're hearing your name, it's echoed, it's like, what does that mean? A wonderful sculptor friend of mine, who was an art professor before, enlisted definitions, and his opinion of fame is the loss of personal privacy. And you know, it's kind of interesting to hear like that, you know, because everything is in public. You know,
Yeah, but they
if
can't
you're good, it's in public.
You can
Bad
stop them
is in
from
public.
getting into your head, though. You do lose your personal privacy, I'm sure.
I think that's an inadequate definition. Do you want to?
Karen can,
Try and do this smoothly. There you go. Gotcha.
You ready?
I'm ready.
I think that's an inadequate definition because it's absolutely framed in a negative way about laws. And fame also, as opposed to notoriety, which is negative fame, which is a misused word all the time. People will use notoriety and notorious. When you use the word notorious, they tend to remember it's usually about gangsters. But fame is a positive thing, and one of the positive things is the loss of privacy. It also could be a value judgment that it's a negative thing. And it absolutely is when you realize that fame is a 24-hour-a-day thing for a lot of people, especially with today's media, like the camera staring at me right now, like Facebook, like all the things connected with Robin Williams and his family issuing a statement about the pain they're going through, trying to honor their father, and yet somewhere in the millions of positive references, there's a negative, cruel comment here and there. But fame, for the most part, is gained because you have talent, because you have values, because you're great at something, because you do things under pressure with many people watching and have an integrity to your performance. The negative side of fame is a loss of personal privacy. But to say that's the only definition of fame is missing out on the fact that you have a God-given talent that you've crafted into something that can inspire thousands, if not millions. And that, to me, is denying, from a spiritual standpoint, God's gifts to you, that you honored them, you recognized them, you worked through them, and they became a product that helped other people probably raise their sense of what they could do with their lives.
But it does beg the question of, you know how people look at famous people, okay?
How do they look at famous people?
I think people overrate famous people. I mean, doctors, lawyers do all these
Very
great
high
things.
expectations.
Right.
Okay, they do all these great things. Do they ever get heard? Do they know about? I mean, so the people who are in the public eye have an advantage, but those who use it and become that entitled thing, it's a very poor example of its good. And you see regular people, you see famous people, and they say, oh God, you know, I'm thinking, do you not know who you are? You know, it kind of puts that, what would you call it? Competition? What is it? That they put you higher than they are.
And so
And that's not good.
that is one of the lies about fame,
Yeah.
which is because you're good at one of God's gifts to you, because you have been excellent as a singer or a place kicker or a songwriter or whatever your gift is, that automatically that means you're comprehensively fully developed and equally well developed as a human being. And with Robin Williams, I think without a doubt the finest comedian of his generation for many reasons. But when you listen to him talk about his issue with addiction, there's a lot of missing pieces there. There's a lack of spiritual acknowledgement, except he does say, you know, there's a loving God towards the end of his interviews in his life. But there's a spiritual void there that the breadth and incredibly wise, unbelievably quick mind that he had went to certain levels of insight that no one will ever get to. But that once again doesn't mean that he had put together the other things, the day-to-day things. And it's the same lie or misrepresentation that happens with athletes, happens with performers. I think performers, actors, and musicians get away with it more because when you're an athlete, you're connected to a specific team and community. And that community gets a little embarrassed if you get drunk and if you do drugs. You get a little bit more play in that if you're an actor or a musician. But in the end, we all pay the piper. Where we think the source of our fame is. Is it because of the talent? Or is it some reflection that we're great at everything? And it's really sad when we think automatically that we're entitled to believe we've actually done the hard work on the parts that are away from the camera in the shadows of our lives.
We are back with Jessi Colter and Nick Lowry. And Jessi, I have maybe a tough question for you, but take away your performing self. You're not a performer, you're just a student studying motivation. Tell me what you do well.
Well, I think I express what's in my heart vocally.
So you're not afraid of what other people think? You'll
You know, I'm not. And
say what's on your mind?
Yes, because I learned very early. In fact, I equate myself with minorities because I was Pentecostal in a Mormon town, and yet I had all the same great football boyfriends. I ran with the best, the students and all that. So, I learned very early I wasn't going to be part of the status quo. That wasn't my entry. Okay, so if you don't have an entry point, it kind of relaxes you, and then you seek what comes easiest, comes best, and to perfect that, with what Nick's saying in simple terms, I would say, well, you have a calling, okay? And I think teachers, I think nurses, doctors, is more of a minister. It's a calling. I don't really think it can be explained. When you lead by example.
Okay,
When
so,
you lead by example, that's the very best way to lead.
So
and you can't hardly, when you have this talent, that's
Right.
something.
so I think what you're saying is be yourself. Don't be afraid of what other
Yes.
people think, just be true to yourself,
Yes.
okay?
Yes.
Anything else that you think you do really good at, besides singing?
Having fun. I really
Okay.
like to have fun. I really like to.
So what is fun though? Fun can be a lot of different
People,
things.
the right people.
She's the best entertainer I know, home entertainer. She,
Home entertainer.
absolutely. Well, when
You get on the piano?
When Jessi puts together an event, she
Yeah.
had a Hall of Fame celebration party for me. It's the finest party I've ever been a part of. She does it. She spares no expense. She does it all the way. Muhammad Ali came, but it was just absolutely first rate. So there's a grounding that Jessi has. It's sharing her life. She celebrates, so it's an interesting thing because she still has a level of privacy. But when it's time to celebrate, she celebrates, and everybody.
This may be the time you turn the camera off here, right?
No, but I mean everybody comes that feels honored to be part of it. It's a
Right.
It's a first class celebration. It's not some off crazy thing. It's a classy
Right.
celebration that honors the guest because Jessi does it absolutely in a beautiful way that shows that she respects the people that are coming and wants them to have a great experience. I mean, she put together about a 10-foot number 8 hanging from the corral, which is, she has this little corral in the back, that Western cowgirl thing going on. And it's lit up at night with a red 8. I mean, who would take the time to do that? That was my number, and I was like,
I was supporting for you.
she gets it. Yeah,
Celebration.
but so there's a gift that only people that are considered part of her circle get to experience. But they all know that she only does things if she's fully committed to it.
All right, back here on Jessi.
Yeah, you can erase all this stuff.
Be true to yourself. Have fun. Can you give me one more?
Go with
What
God.
you do best. One more.
What I do best, I don't know, go with God. It's an adventure, this seeking, this relation, this talking to and asking His thoughts towards you. I mean, don't let, the barrier of our circumstances. I was just thinking about a song I wrote called Only You is the name of the song. And the lyrics go in the first part, when the human bars of circumstance, just a second, God, I just quoted it, human bars of circumstance seem to hem me in. I prove unfaithful, I act just like a human being, Take your spirit, take your sword, pierce me deep within. Uniting soul and spirit, I would see again. People who don't consider God are not really playing with a full deck. Okay? That's the way I put it.
Okay. Then let me ask you this. I know I've taken a lot of your time up this morning.
It's delightful to meet you finally. We talked on the phone and
Well, the wind was blowing in the right direction, right? That's what you told me the first. I said, well, okay, I hope the wind's in the right place when we finally meet. Do you have any regrets?
I went through a time that I left my faith, and I went through much of what's going on now with the New Age. And I had 10 years of that, and so I know what I'm talking about. There's a dark side of life, and
Sometimes it's hard to keep the lights
so
on.
I would have preferred I had not done that, but on the other hand, I kind of take the position, if you're familiar with the Bible, where the prostitute shows up and the apostles say, get her out of here. And she's the one pouring oil on his feet, and he says, who loves me most? The one who's sinned little or the one who's sinned most? And so I feel like what I've gone through in some of the dark places I've walked, that it has opened my heart to love more and to love God more.
Well, it sounds...
And to be compassionate to others and their weaknesses.
You think you have to experience that adversity to make that happen?
I do.
Yeah.
I don't think it's easy.
No, I tend to agree with you. I think that personally for me, the best thing that ever happened to me, I had a really nice job and I got fired. And that just opened my mind and my heart up. It did.
It
Need that.
directs your creativity.
Right.
Yes, and yes, compassion for others.
Okay. Well, anything else you want to tell students who are going to college and trying to figure out their lives?
Just do it.
Don't
just
hesitate,
do it.
yeah.
I mean, don't,
No, a lot of people actually
don't
hold back. They're
Oh, yes.
afraid of the consequences. That never, you
They
don't
don't
see
know what they
that.
want to do. Come on, they
Yeah,
don't know what
just
they want to do.
Yep.
Uh,
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I really
Bobby.
enjoyed talking
It's
to you.
great talking to you.
Thank you. Right, so, okay, so you,
I really prefer to be where I can
right.
stew.
How about,
Brew.
come on, I wanna, this is a really good point that you brought. You wanna come and join us?
Come on, Nikki.
Make believe you're on the,
Here, baby.
I won't say Johnny Carson show, I don't know. Okay, now we've got two motivational leaders on the same clip. Two people that have had tremendous pressure. How do you figure out and how do you maintain your focus under pressure? And what rituals or routines do you have before you perform? Ladies first.
He's the one that really has had great pressure.
Yeah, but you both do it. You haven't gone out there and like forgot the words to your.
No, I mean, really, I freaked out the first time I had to open the show for 40,000 people out there. I think I can't do this. Then I just take a breath and go out there and do it.
So you think you can do it?
Oh, yeah, well,
Well, you did it.
I do it.
Okay.
If I think about it too much,
That was the first time.
I think you can overthink things.
Yes. What do you mean by
I
that?
don't, well, you can just overthink it. You can figure it out. So, wait a minute. By the time you're exhausted, you know, what do you have to give? You know, the way I store up, okay?
Some people might say, what do you have to lose?
Yeah, right.
Right? I
Exactly.
don't know if that's what you're
That's
saying.
exactly. You really look over their heads and
You know,
focus.
A lot of people
You know?
have that trouble though. They're so worried about
I know.
what other people are going to think that it just
I'm trying to
clogs
figure it
their
all
head.
out. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm not analytical. Nick's very analytical. He takes things apart. I just walk into it.
Nick, did you have any routine that you went through
Well,
psychologically?
let's draw some fundamental distinctions. You know, when you're
Yeah.
playing against the Raiders, and at a concert, you probably aren't going to have 50,000 people within
No haters,
50
right?
yards yelling obscenities at you, and 11 people averaging 6'5", 300 pounds, who can bench press 400 pounds, paid $2 million each to
Yes,
kill you.
yes.
I think
So
you're
there's
right, but you can have demons in your head
No,
where
absolutely.
that same thing is going on.
You're probably not, though, when you're rehearsing a song, you're probably focusing more on the music and that music speaking for itself.
But you know,
And as an athlete-
you're a sitting duck. An entertainer is a sitting duck. You're there with 30, 40, 60,000 people. They
You've
can
got
feel
3
it.
seconds
Somebody
after 3
can-
hours.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
you can hit a wrong note and hopefully turn it around.
No, there's nuts out there.
But there are
There's a danger.
nuts out there.
There's a danger.
But it's an evolving thing how you prepare yourself. I will say, before the biggest game of my career, our AFC Championship game, I had a friend call and said, well, why are you so nervous? He said, who are you playing for? And I said,
Yeah.
I'm playing for the kids that I want to inspire. Who do you want to inspire? So that was great because that got me out of thinking about the pressure on me, instead pushed that in the other direction. How can I inspire the people that really matter to me?
Mm-hmm.
And I think in music and in acting, maybe it's a little closer to that. You've got people paying money to hear you sing and want you to be successful. Maybe sometimes you're playing on the road and those people are not quite so excited when you're playing in football, a violent sport to begin with. But still, it's about preparing in a way that brings out your best.
Do you feel better about performing well in front of a bad, hostile audience than you would at home?
It's very
It's like,
gratifying.
I got them.
It's very gratifying. I remember playing against New England after I
Well,
got
you
cut
can
by
turn
New
the
England.
crowd around.
And they just have a wonderful way of expressing themselves there and hitting 3 field goals to beat them. Early in my career, That was very satisfying. But in the end, it's better just to shut up and do your job, and then be businesslike about it, because there's a certain discipline that no one can get to you. When there's someone yelling, like, I'm not sure if you've ever had anybody heckling you, but there's a strong argument you don't let that person know that they're heckling you.
Right.
On the other hand, sometimes you have to go with it. We're playing Denver Broncos opening game of the '88 season, and you haven't kicked now for 6 months, and you want to start out the season right, and just a few mistakes affects your entire season.
Sure.
So you want to start off right. This guy's been heckling me for just an hour and a half, and I finally turn around and he's eating popcorn.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so I just look at him and go, and he gets out of his seat, brings down his bag of popcorn, gives me some popcorn over the fence, the old Mile High Stadium in Denver,
Right.
and you could do that. I had some popcorn, which frankly probably helped me because I hadn't eaten in about 5 hours, and went out and nailed a 43-yarder at the beginning of the season, and now I look back and he's my best buddy, go like this.
That's right, you should go.
Whereas, 5 minutes earlier he was
Right.
saying some really mean things about my mom.
Does it change as you, I know Jessi, you said the
I mean,
first
how did you
time.
know that?
The first time you're in front of an audience, there's a lot of pressure you put on yourself. But as you mature as an individual and a performer, that change? Or always worried about that? Or maybe not worried about it at all?
It depends. Like, doing large TV shows where a lot of your peers are,
Mhm.
you probably may try a little harder. But, I don't know, bottom line is you just have to pull out of yourself and store within and have something to give, and you can feel, and there's something that happens. I'm very unconscious the way I receive, and I can feel that night, and you can feel the love, you can feel the distraction.
So you
And
need
you
other...
have to focus and stay who you
Right.
are and do what you do, and no matter what.
So it sounds like from answers from both of you that the audience has a lot to do with how you feel.
That's right.
Well,
Yes, it is.
I would disagree. I think that as a kicker, in my role in my sport, I had to work as hard as I could to not make it matter and just do what I did. And we have a saying, act like you've been there, The guys that make a good tackle these days and go crazy, I'm like, the game's not over. You haven't won it yet. Shut up. And when it's over, then you can celebrate. That's why guys like Larry Fitzgerald are great, because or Marcus Allen, they hand the ball to the ref because the game ain't over yet. So
Yeah, it drives me crazy when they're down by 20 points and they're out there celebrating.
and it's great to feel relaxed. But every game I was in a different place, no matter what I did.
Yeah.
So having to manage where I was and just make it work, but it always came back to doing good preparation. Now, if I do public speaking, it's very different, because I love, especially when I'm talking with kids, I love the empathetic thing. That's where the joy is the empathetic connection. But I'm not sure, but me being aware of the empathetic connection with, several thousand crazy people in the stands would probably have been helpful.
Yeah.
Well, what I meant by that was, not that I'm worried about what they think or anything like that. You could feel the night. You can feel if the moon's out. It's very organic. With the
Right.
chemistry, you can feel if there's some distraction. It's just like the drivers on the road. I can tell what kind of day it is and the way they drive. They're not thinking. They're in a hurry. They're sleepy. So that's an automatic thing that you feel. It's not about wondering what they think. It's like you just some nights.
Well, I think you
work
do it
better.
so well, though.
That work
You
better.
two are consummate lifetime performers, so you kind of internalize that. It becomes automatic. And even though the book is not about cognition, but that's what happens. If you do it enough times, you don't think about it, you can focus your
Oh,
energy.
I'm going to just say right now, it ain't ever automatic.
Oh, yeah?
And the
We're going to
second-
debate
And
that.
the second you think it's automatic, you're in trouble. So to me,
Well,
I'll never forget late in my career, I wasn't nervous, and I'm like, this must be because I'm just a wise old elder of the game, and I figured it out. And then I got to the game, and the night before, wasn't nervous.
Well,
Game,
okay.
I'm not nervous. Then the game started, and I was nervous. So I
but you
learned.
don't focus on the process, though. You've got the process is automatized.
Yes.
I don't
what is that?
take it for granted,
Yeah.
but you're not worried about, okay, you're playing the piano, but you know, did I hit the right key, you know?
But actually, you see, that's the thing is you have to cut away all those other things. So the process becomes being able to cut away everything else,
Right.
so you don't think too much and you trust your preparation.
Well, that was,
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's
it. That's
Whether
what he's
it
saying.
takes a half
That's what
glass of
he's saying.
red wine,
Yeah.
or whether it's
You know,
know.
he's saying it's automatic in the sense that, yes, I
Yeah.
mean, you have these coping skills.
well, as Jesse's saying, don't overthink it.
Yeah.
exactly, absolutely.
I
used to
wish
say-
my students knew that. But we're running out of time.
No.
You guys have been great, and I really appreciate you talking with me today.